You ever have that feeling someone's watching you? Not in a casual, passing glance sort of way, but like something cold and unseen is breathing down the back of your neck. That feeling started one Tuesday night in late October. I was sitting in our living room with the TV casting flickering light against the walls, the sound low, Natalie upstairs in the shower. It was late, too late for trick-or-treaters, too early for anyone to be wandering the streets. And yet, there it was, a shape, just outside the window beyond the hedges. Still, I froze. It was subtle, like a darker patch of darkness, standing just far enough from the porch light to avoid being fully revealed. My mind, the rational part, told me it was nothing. A tree branch, a neighbor's trash bin knocked over by wind. But my gut, that primitive instinctual voice that saved people since the Stone Age, it told me someone was there. I stood slowly, trying not to alert whatever it was. The silhouette didn't move. I stepped to the front door, flicked on the exterior lights, and opened it wide. Cool air rushed in. Nothing. No one on the sidewalk. The bushes swayed, but the night was otherwise still. I lingered a moment, then locked up and shut the door. Natalie, I called upstairs, trying to sound casual. Did you see anything outside earlier? Like someone walking around? The water shut off. Her voice followed. No? What? I didn't answer. Didn't want to come off paranoid. Not yet. But that was the beginning. The first mark on the wall. Natalie and I had been married for 6 years. We met at a concert downtown. Me, a jaded advertising exec who just closed the biggest deal of my career, and her, a freelance illustrator with eyes full of starlight and rebellion. We were fire and air. Passionate. Restless. Sex like thunder. Raw and honest. But lately the fire had cooled. Not died, but quieted. That edge we once had dulled over time. I chalked it up to routine. Everyone settles eventually, right? But then the figure came back. Twice more that week. Once I thought I saw a face in the reflection of my office window upstairs. Another time, I found footprints in the dew-covered grass outside the back door. Just one set, circling, stopping beneath our bedroom window. Still, I said nothing. What was I going to tell Natalie? That I was being haunted by a shadow? But my silence wasn't just about sounding crazy. It was also about her. She'd been different lately. Distant. Her phone, once casually tossed on counters, was now always face down, locked, kept close like it held something sacred. Her smiles were fewer. Our conversations shorter. She'd become preoccupied. One night, as she slipped out of her jeans and into a thin silk camisole, one I hadn't seen before, I noticed a new perfume on her skin. Musky, warm, seductive. The kind of scent that begged to be noticed, touched, tasted. New perfume? I asked. She hesitated for a beat too long. Yeah, picked it up on sale. But she didn't look at me when she said it. Later that night, as she drifted to sleep beside me, I stayed awake. Her body curled away from mine, her breathing even. I stared at the ceiling, a pit forming in my chest. The next morning, I checked the camera feed from our doorbell. Nothing from the night before, just an Amazon package left at noon and the mailman waving as he walked off. But a few frames in, I caught it barely. A flicker, a blur of motion in the far corner of the screen at 3:17 a.m. The shadow again. It escalated from there. A dead crow left on the porch one morning, its neck bent unnaturally. A faint smear of something red, maybe blood, maybe not, on our back window. I even found a cigarette, but still warm to the touch on the edge of our patio table. Neither Natalie nor I smoked. And then there were her nights out. She started going to late client meetings more often. She was an illustrator, mostly doing digital book covers and indie comic art. What client meetings? She'd leave in thigh-high boots and subtle makeup that accented the pout of her lips. She came back smelling like that same musky perfume. I told myself I trusted her. But trust and doubt aren't mutually exclusive. You can love someone and still feel the dread building. I tried to talk myself out of it. Maybe I was projecting. Maybe the stress of work and lack of sleep was making me see things that weren't there. Hell, maybe the guy outside wasn't real. Until I caught Natalie looking at him. It was subtle. I was doing dishes, my back half turned to the living room window, and I saw her reflected in the glass. She was staring out, fixed, almost mesmerized, expression unreadable. Her hand clutched the curtain edge, lips parted slightly. I turned quickly. She snapped out of it, forced a smile. Just thinking, she said. I didn't ask about what. I didn't want to know the answer. One night, I waited. Natalie had gone upstairs early, citing a migraine. I stayed downstairs, lights off, tucked behind the edge of the curtain like some horror movie cliché. I watched the street, the yard, the shadows. Midnight passed. Then, like clockwork, a figure emerged from behind the elm across the road. He walked slow, like he wasn't afraid of being seen. Slender, average height, hooded. I couldn't see his face. He stepped onto our lawn. I wanted to move, to go outside and confront him, but my legs refused. I watched, breath shallow, as he walked right up to the edge of our porch. And then he reached into his pocket, pulled something out. It was a small, folded note. He tucked it under the doormat. And then he looked up, straight into the living room window. Straight at me. My blood turned to ice. He raised a single hand, palm forward. Not a wave. A gesture. Deliberate. Then he turned and disappeared back into the darkness. I found the note the next morning. No envelope. Just a folded piece of thick, textured paper. It was handwritten, the penmanship surprisingly elegant. She's more beautiful than you deserve, and I won't let her go again. I read it 3 times before the meaning fully hit me. He knew her. No, not just knew her. He loved her, and from the sound of it, she had loved him too. Or maybe still did. The knock at the door was sharp, not urgent, not hesitant, just assertive. It was a Friday evening, about 8:30, and Natalie was curled up on the couch, wine glass in hand, flipping through Netflix with the same vacant detachment she'd worn all week. I was in the kitchen, rinsing dishes, trying to pretend life was normal. Then that knock came. I froze. She didn't move. Expecting someone, I asked. Natalie looked up slowly, then shook her head. Probably a solicitor or something. But I saw it, that tiny flicker of panic behind her eyes. She stood up too fast, the wine sloshing in her glass. I dried my hands and walked to the door before she could reach it. Another knock. This one slower, firmer. I opened the door, and there he was, the figure from the shadows. Only this time, he wasn't lurking. He was standing right there on our porch like he had every right in the world to be. Tall, lean build, mid-30s maybe, brown hair pulled back into a loose tie, like he couldn't be bothered to tame it properly. His jaw was tight, clenched, and his eyes, those eyes, locked onto mine with an intensity that felt almost primal. Then they shifted past me to her. Natalie stood frozen a few steps behind me, her mouth parted, the wine glass trembling slightly in her hand. "Hi, Nat," he said softly. "You look beautiful." It was like the air was sucked out of the room. My brain couldn't keep up with the speed at which the implications hit. The way he said her name, the way she blinked like a deer caught in headlights, the way the blood drained from her face. "You need to leave," I said, stepping forward, blocking the doorway. "I'm not here to cause trouble," he replied calmly. "But I need to talk to her. Just for a minute. That's all." He tried to look around me again. I stepped fully into the doorway. I said, "You need to leave." Then Natalie spoke. "Ethan," she whispered. The name hit me like a hammer. Ethan, not just some stranger, not some shadowy voyeur. He had a name, a past, a history with my wife. Ethan's gaze snapped back to her. He looked pained, hopeful, desperate. "You haven't answered my calls," he said, his voice tight now. "You said you'd explain everything, that we'd talk. Then you cut me off." Her hand tightened around the glass stem. "You can't just show up here. Then tell me to my face it was all a lie." Ethan said, "Tell me that everything you said, everything we did, meant nothing." "Go ahead, Natalie." I turned to her, slowly. "What the hell is he talking about?" I asked. She stared at Ethan, her mouth opening, then closing. She was pale, shaking. I saw a storm inside her, guilt and fear, and the paralyzing realization that she could no longer hide behind vague words and sideways glances. "Natalie," I said again, louder this time. "What is he talking about?" Ethan stepped forward. "She loved me. Still does. We were going to be together until—" "Stop," Natalie snapped. "Just stop." I turned back to him, my fists clenched at my sides. "Get off my porch." "No," Ethan said, shaking his head. "Not until she says it." Not until I hear her say it's over. I looked at Natalie. Her eyes were brimming now. She looked down, then away. Say something, I told her. She looked up at me. I didn't plan for this. That was all I needed to hear. You son of a bitch, I growled and stepped out toward Ethan. He didn't back down. You don't understand, man. She was mine before she was yours. I shoved him. He stumbled back down the steps, but stayed on his feet. You had your talk, I said. Now, leave before I make you. Fine, he said, holding up his hands. But she's not safe with you anymore. You're the one who doesn't see her. He turned, walking into the dark without another word. I didn't speak again until the door was closed and locked behind me. Natalie hadn't moved. She looked like a ghost, arms wrapped around herself, shaking. You want to tell me what the hell that was? I asked. She didn't answer, so I stepped closer. Who is he? She sat down, slowly, as if her legs couldn't carry her anymore. Her voice was so quiet I almost missed it. Someone from before. Years ago, I ran into him again by chance. It spiraled. I repeated. So what, how long? Weeks? Months? She looked up at me, eyes wide with shame. 6 months. The words slammed into me with the weight of a truck. I took a step back, like her confession had a physical force. And you didn't think to mention that your stalker was actually your lover? She flinched. I ended it. Clearly not well. She wiped at her face. I never wanted to go that far. I never wanted him to show up here. But you did want him. Silence. I nodded, breath catching in my throat. Right. Please, just let me explain. No, I said, turning away. You explained enough. I walked upstairs, not because I needed space, but because if I stayed another second, I'd say something I couldn't take back. I didn't sleep that night. She stayed on the couch, curled up in a blanket, crying. I stared at the ceiling in our bed, trying to piece together the last 6 months like fragments from someone else's life. But I didn't feel betrayed anymore. I felt stupid. She'd made a fool of me, and I knew, deep in my bones, that this wasn't something I could ever forgive. But forgiveness was no longer my goal. Revenge was. Morning light bled through the curtains, soft and golden, but it felt like a spotlight on a crime scene. I didn't go downstairs right away. I sat on the edge of the bed for nearly an hour, watching dust motes float through the sunbeams, thinking about all the little moments over the past year, things I had ignored, excused, or explained away. The extra care Natalie had taken with her appearance. The late-night texts she insisted were from her sister. The way she'd sometimes come home breathless, flushed, like she'd just run to catch the last train. Only there were no train stations near where she claimed to be. I saw all of it now with unfiltered clarity. The affair wasn't some sudden collapse. It was a slow, quiet disintegration. By the time I finally made my way downstairs, Natalie was already up. She was at the kitchen island, holding a mug of coffee with both hands like it might anchor her in place. She looked like hell, dark circles under her eyes, hair a knotted mess, her voice hoarse when she finally spoke. You didn't sleep, she said. Nope. A beat passed. I didn't either. Not surprised. I pour myself a cup, deliberately choosing the mug she'd got me for our 5th anniversary. The irony didn't escape me. Forever and always etched in cursive across the ceramic. It tasted like ash in my mouth. We should talk, she said. I didn't look at her. Go ahead, she sighed, setting her cup down with a soft clink. Ethan and we dated when I was in college. You know that. It was messy, intense, the kind of relationship that burns hot and fast and never leaves you. Yeah, I said. The kind that keeps you up at night years later, apparently. She flinched. We broke up because he cheated on me. Multiple times. I was stupidly in love with him, but eventually I walked away. I didn't think I'd ever see him again. And then, I asked, voice cold. Last year, I went to that art exhibit at the Haven Gallery. He was there, alone. Said he'd gotten sober. Said he was doing therapy, try to rebuild his life. I didn't even recognize him at first. He looked so different, worn down. Let me guess, I said. You talked, caught up, one thing led to another. No, she interrupted. I didn't cheat right away. I laughed bitterly. Well, that's comforting. I mean it. At first we just had coffee. A couple times. I didn't even tell him I was married at first. Why not? She looked away. Because I liked how it felt. To be wanted. Desired. not just part of someone's routine. That one stung deeper than I expected. And what was I, Natalie? Your stability? The safe harbor while you flirted with the storm? No, you're my husband. You've been everything. But Ethan, he tapped into a part of me that felt dead. I didn't mean for it to happen, but it did. She nodded. Sex? I asked. She hesitated. I stepped closer. How many times? I don't know, she whispered. How? Many times. She broke. Maybe 10. Maybe more. I nodded slowly, jaw tight. You told me you were going to art events. Book club. Visiting your sister. I know, she said, tears welling in her eyes. Elite. And I hate myself for it. I stared at her, a woman I had once thought incapable of cruelty. You let that man, your ex, come into our life, into our home, Natalie. He stalked you, left notes, watched us through the windows. What the hell kind of affair is that? I ended it, she said, desperate now. Months ago, when I realized he wasn't letting go, when he started showing up at my work. I blocked him, cut him off. Except he didn't go away. No, she said, her voice cracking. He didn't. I took a breath, the air sharp in my lungs. So what happens now? She asked, voice trembling. Do you want a divorce? I didn't answer, because the truth was, I didn't know. The idea of being without her made my stomach churn, but the idea of being with her after all of this felt worse. Instead, I said, you told me you loved me. Ido. Then why wasn't I enough? Her silence was the only answer I needed. That afternoon, I sat in my office, staring at an empty screen. But I wasn't thinking about the betrayal anymore. Not directly. I was thinking about Ethan, who he was, what he wanted, and how I could take it from him. I did some digging, pulled up his name, first through social media, then through old university records. Found a portfolio website, half-finished, barely maintained, filled with moody charcoal sketches and cryptic blog entries about longing and regret. There were mentions of his photography work, a few black and white shots of urban decay. Most were garbage, but some were good. Too good. He wasn't just some shadow peeking through blinds. He was a man in love, with her, with the past, with the idea of a woman he lost. And he wasn't letting go. So I decided to use that against him. That night, I told Natalie I wanted to try again. I said the words like they were bandages instead of bullets. I'm not saying I forgive you, I told her. But if we're going to try to save this, we have to do it together. Her eyes lit with something like hope. She nodded. Yes, I want that. I smiled, and I meant none of it. Because I wasn't just going to heal. I was going to ruin them both. But not with rage. Not with violence. With precision. Forgiveness is a beautiful lie. It sounds noble. Looks virtuous. Everyone tells you it's the higher path. That only the strong forgive. What they never say is that forgiveness can also be a weapon, especially when it's not real. I waited until Sunday evening to say the words. Natalie was sitting across from me at the dining table, a half-empty glass of wine in her hands, eyes swollen from crying. I kept my tone steady, almost warm. We could try again, I said. Start over. But only if you're honest with me. About everything. She stared at me, shocked. You mean that? I nodded. We made vows. That means something to me. I'm willing to fight for us. But only if you are too. She reached across the table like it was a lifeline. I am. I swear. I took her hand. Smiled. That was the moment I slipped the blade into her heart. And she didn't even feel it. For the next 2 weeks, I played the part. I was the grieving but hopeful husband. The man who chose love over rage. I held her at night, touched her gently, made dinner for 2 instead of 1. We even had sex twice. It was different now, slower, more cautious. She was trying so hard to earn back my trust, kissing me like I might vanish, like she could undo the damage with enough intimacy. But I wasn't thinking about her body. I was thinking about Ethan. Every time her lips touched my skin, I imagined his hands on her, his voice in her ear, his breath on her neck. And I used that disgust to fuel my plan. I started small. I created a fake Gmail account, TruthWatcher87. Then I began tracking Ethan's social profiles, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, even some obscure artist forums. I watched when he posted, what he posted, how often. He had that self-absorbed aura some men wear like armor. The tortured artist, broken soul persona, full of quotes about pain and rebirth and finding beauty in the ashes. He didn't know it yet, but I was going to burn his ashes. I spent a few nights quietly following him. I'd leave after Natalie fell asleep, careful not to wake her. Ethan was as predictable as a metronome. He lived in a converted loft downtown, rode a bike everywhere, hit the same cafe every Tuesday and Thursday like clockwork. He didn't have friends. At least, none I ever saw. Only women. He flirted with the barista, held lingering eye contact with strangers on the train. I watched him for hours sometimes, not out of envy, but calculation. I was studying his movements, his patterns, his weaknesses. Meanwhile, at home, I became Natalie's salvation. I cooked her favorite meals, bought her flowers for no reason, left notes on her pillow, still choosing you. Each line made her fall deeper into this illusion that we were healing. It was cruel, but then again, so was everything she'd done to me. Sometimes at night, I'd wake to find her pressed against me, whispering apologies in her sleep. I'd wrap my arms around her, kiss her shoulder gently, whisper, "It's okay." It wasn't. It never would be. I planted the first seed between them on a rainy Thursday. Natalie had gone to bed early, claiming a migraine. I slipped in my office and drafted a message using a second fake email, ethereal.reckoning23@outlook.com. Subject, "She's lying to you." Message, "You think she chose you. You're wrong. She told him everything. She never stopped sleeping with her husband. She laughs at how obsessed you still are. You're her little mistake, and she's already moved on." Tick, tock. I waited until 2:43 a.m. to send it. That's when I'd seen Ethan was most active online. The next day, Natalie was anxious. She jumped every time her phone buzzed, kept checking the front window. Didn't say it aloud, but I knew what was happening. He was unraveling, just like I planned. A few days later, I left my phone unlocked on the kitchen counter while she was making coffee. On purpose, I'd left a message thread open. A fake chat between me and someone named Allison from work. Flirty, suggestive, just enough to spark questions. I watched her glance at the phone. She hesitated, picked it up. Her fingers scrolled slowly, eyes darting back toward the hallway like a thief. When she saw me return, she nearly dropped the phone. I was just checking the time. I smiled. No worries. She didn't bring it up. Not that night. Not the next. But I saw the doubt settle behind her eyes. A single seed of suspicion, growing, just like I intended. The next escalation came from Ethan. I knew it before Natalie did. I'd bug her phone with a free spyware app I'd side-loaded while she was asleep. It let me read her texts, listen to her calls, track her GPS. He sent her a message. "You told me he wouldn't forgive you, that you'd leave him. What the fuck is this?" She didn't respond. He messaged again the next morning. "You're playing both of us. You want him and me. That's it, isn't it?" She replied, finally. "Please stop. It's over. We can't talk anymore. You're scaring me." I could almost hear his heart break through the screen. Good. Later that night, Natalie sat on the edge of the bed, staring at her hands. "I think Ethan might come back," she said quietly. "He's angry. Do I need to be worried?" I asked. She shook her head. "No, I ended it. He won't let go." "Sounds like a crazy ex," I said. She nodded. "Yeah, I think he's losing it." I kissed her forehead. Inside, I was grinning, because I was the one pulling the strings. Ethan was the puppet, and Natalie, she was the show. They were both dancing to my tune, and I was only just getting started. Paranoia is like a virus. It doesn't just arrive, it incubates, spreads, takes hold slowly, wrapping itself around the mind until everything, even truth, feels like a lie. And I was about to infect Ethan with every ounce of it. He'd already shown me how close to the edge he was. Those late-night messages, the unhinged appearances, the desperate pleas Natalie tried to ignore. But desperation is just a step away from madness. All it takes is the right push. So I gave it to him. Step 1, get inside his head. From my burner email, I started sending anonymous messages every other day. Nothing too obvious, just enough to gnaw at him. She told her husband everything. He knows your name, your face. She never deleted your photos. You're not her first. You won't be her last. At first, he didn't respond. But then, on a Tuesday at 3:12 a.m., he cracked. His reply was short. "Who is this?" I didn't answer. I let the silence twist around him like a noose. By the end of that week, he'd blocked Natalie's number, then unblocked it, then blocked it again. I knew this because I was tracking both of their phones like a god watching flawed little mortals. Natalie, meanwhile, was spinning in her own private storm. She was growing increasingly jumpy, checking the locks, double-checking the windows. She even started looking over her shoulder while driving. I knew, because I'd installed a GPS tracker under her bumper. She thought Ethan was stalking her. He was, but I was stalking both of them. And worse, I was narrating the story in real time. Step 2. Make Ethan think she was lying to him now. I created a second account. This one under the alias C.more42. A fake Facebook profile with a few believable details. Art enthusiast, writer, based in the city. I messaged Ethan with a carefully casual tone. "Not sure if this is weird, but I saw you with Natalie outside Hearth Cafe a few months ago. Thought you two were cute. Surprised she's still seeing you. Figured she was done with that chapter." I watched the read receipt pop up. No response. 3 hours later. "We're not together." I replied, "Oh, I just assumed. She was definitely still with you when she was with her husband. Saw her leave your place, then post about a date night with him the next day." Messy stuff. He didn't respond again. But the next day, Natalie came home pale and shaken. "He was outside the office today," she said, "just standing there, watching me." Then he disappeared. I tilted my head, feigning concern. "Won't he talk to him?" She hesitated. No, that might make it worse." That night she cried in the shower. Quiet, shoulders trembling, steam clinging to the glass like breath on a mirror. I listened through the vent. Step 3. Escalate. I printed photos, screenshots from her social media, Ethan's messages, fake chat logs between her imaginary lovers. Just fragments. Out of context lies. I mailed them to Ethan in a blank envelope. No note, just proof that she was playing him. Proof I manufactured. 3 days later, Ethan sent Natalie a single, furious message. "I hope he sees you for what you really are." She didn't reply. She deleted it. I retrieved it from her phone logs. Then I used it. I sent Ethan another message that night from the burner. "She's still lying. He's just pretending. You know that, right? She deserves everything that's coming." His reply was immediate. "She used me." I didn't respond. I didn't have to. He was unraveling on his own now. Meanwhile, I turned Natalie against him too. I started leaving small, unsettling things around the house. A single photo of her and Ethan slipped into her desk drawer. A sticky note on her windshield that read, "He's watching." An unlit cigarette on the porch, same brand Ethan smoked. She was spiraling, sleeping with the lamp on, checking through the peephole before answering the door. Once, she woke me up in the middle of the night. "I think someone was outside," she whispered. I heard footsteps. I nodded, pulled her close, let her breathe against my chest like I was her protector. Like I wasn't the one feeding her fear. "Do you think it's him?" she asked. "I don't know," I murmured. "But I won't let anything happen to you." She fell asleep believing that. And in the middle of all this madness, I made love to her again. Not out of affection, out of control. I took my time, touched her slowly, kissed her like she was fragile, like I could break her or rebuild her depending on my whim. She clung to me, desperate to feel something real again. It wasn't passion. It was possession. By the end of the week, Ethan posted something cryptic online. "Don't trust the eyes that smile." I knew what that meant. He was cracking. Exactly where I wanted him. Natalie was losing sleep, losing weight, and growing more paranoid by the day. She didn't realize the war wasn't between her and Ethan. It was between me and the version of her I used to love. And I was winning. Obsession isn't loud. Not at first. It's the subtle kind. The quiet pacing at 2 a.m. The soft hum of a name whispered into the dark. The bite of unfinished conversations replayed again and again in someone's mind until they no longer hear anything else. And Ethan? Ethan was already deep in it. I just needed to give him a little nudge. The moment arrived in a grocery store parking lot. It was mid-afternoon. A Tuesday. Ordinary in every way. Natalie had stopped by on her way home, picking up a bottle of red, 2 bags of pasta, and a bouquet of tulips, her latest peace offering, as if flowers could fill the hole she'd blown through our life. I was parked nearby, pretending to scroll my phone, watching her through tinted windows. And then Ethan appeared. He didn't run. He stalked, like a wolf moving through tall grass, quiet but steady, eyes locked on prey. His hoodie was up, shadows cast across his face, but even from a distance, I could feel his energy pulsing like a live wire. Natalie saw him just before she reached the car. She froze. He didn't shout. He just spoke, too quiet for me to hear, but I could see it all unfold through the windshield. Her body recoiled. His face twisted, not with rage, but heartbreak. Accusation. Confusion. She tried to walk around him. He grabbed her arm, and that was all it took. She screamed. He didn't hit her, didn't hurt her, but the public didn't care about nuance. The people around them heard that scream, saw the look on her face, and a crowd formed like wolves in reverse, coming not to attack, but to protect. I stepped out of my car, jogged over, keeping my face blank and concerned like any good husband should. "Hey, get away from her," I shouted. Ethan looked up, startled, broken. That's when the first onlooker called the police. Someone else started filming on their phone. Perfect. He backed away, hands in the air, stammering something about how he just needed closure. But no one cared, especially not Natalie, who collapsed into my arms like the shattered woman she was quickly becoming. The police arrived minutes later. Ethan didn't resist, didn't fight. He just looked at me with hollow, burning eyes as they led him away. "I loved her," he said. I nodded slowly. "You should have stopped." That night, Natalie shook as she recounted it all to the officer at our kitchen table. Her voice was thin, fractured, like she was speaking from the bottom of a well. I told him to stay away. I blocked him. I don't understand. The officer jotted notes, asked a few more questions, then recommended a temporary restraining order. Natalie agreed immediately. She didn't even look at me for confirmation. She trusted me now more than ever. Her protector, her anchor, her executioner. After the officer left, I held her on the couch. She curled in me like a frightened animal. "I can't believe it got this far," she whispered. "It's not your fault," I said. But it was. She knew it. I knew it. The difference was, I wasn't trying to forgive her anymore. I was trying to bury her. With Ethan under legal scrutiny, I escalated behind the scenes. I leaked our security footage from the porch. A copy of Ethan creeping near the house weeks ago, before the grocery store incident. I edited it slightly, darkening his face, enhancing the shadows to make him look more menacing than he was. Sent it anonymously to the local news tip line. They ran a segment. Man arrested for public altercation with woman he previously stalked. Footage surfaces. They didn't name Natalie, but the image of Ethan's face in grainy black and white was enough to circulate. His online presence evaporated almost overnight. His Instagram vanished. His Twitter account went silent. A few artist communities he was part of issued statements that they did not condone harassment or unsafe behavior. He wasn't just being silenced. He was being erased. Meanwhile, Natalie was breaking apart in pieces. She jumped at every knock. She barely slept. She grew cold, paranoid, terrified that Ethan would somehow find a way to retaliate, to get back in. She didn't know that the thing she should have feared was already sleeping in the same bed. While she clung to routine, planning date nights, clumsily try to rebuild what we used to have, I took my private war deeper. I installed recording software on her laptop. Not to catch her cheating. That ship had long sailed. No, I wanted her confessions. Her fears. Her guilt. I captured every Zoom call with her sister, every vending phone call to her best friend, every drunken midnight voice memo she thought she was saving just for herself. I don't know who I am anymore. I can't fix this. I think he hates me, but won't say it. I saved all of it, organized it, labeled it. One day, I'd let the world hear it. But not yet. Not until the final blow. By the end of the month, Natalie was just a shell of the woman I married. She used to be this radiant thing, creative, wild, full of mischief. I love that about her. I married it. But now, she walked like she was afraid the floor might disappear beneath her. Spoke in short, clipped sentences. Her body moved with tension in every limb. Ethan had become her nightmare, but I had become her world. And when the line between those two things finally blurred, I bring it all down around her. Ethan's restraining order was filed, public, and devastating. He lost clients. His name was passed around in whispers, his art pulled from exhibitions. He tried to stay quiet online, but his desperation bled through in cryptic late-night posts. They'll all see soon. The truth never stays buried. He was unraveling, and I just needed one more push. I sent him a package. No return address. Just a plain manila envelope, slipped into the mail slot of his loft. Inside, a photo of Natalie and me kissing in front of our favorite cafe. A USB drive loaded with fake messages, doctored screenshots of Natalie texting a friend about how pathetic Ethan had become. And a note. She played you. Then she laughed about it. You meant nothing. I timed the delivery to coincide with an anniversary he and Natalie once celebrated. Something I'd uncovered after combing through her old emails. The day they first slept together, years before I met her. He knew the date, and now he'd associate it with humiliation. I tracked his reaction through his social media. 3 hours after receiving the envelope, he posted a photo of a cracked mirror. The caption read, "Sometimes breaking is the only honest thing we do." The next morning, Natalie found our car keyed. A deep, angry gouge running along the driver's side. She called me from the driveway, voice shaking. "It's him. I know it's him. Did anyone see anything?" "No, but it was him. I feel it." That was all she needed to say. I filed the report myself. Made sure the responding officer noted Ethan as a known individual with escalating history. Even suggested he might be surveilling the house again. I said it with concern. Professional calm. Inside, I was savoring every word. Later that week, Natalie got a text. Unknown number. Just one word. Or. She dropped her phone, cried for an hour. Then she called her sister, begged her to come stay for a few days. I told her it was fine, said all the right things. But I was the one who sent the message. I used a temporary texting app, bouncing the number through a server out of state. Untraceable. Another breadcrumb in a trail that pointed only to Ethan. 2 nights later, I triggered the final phase of my setup. I broke a window. Just one. The basement, far side of the house. Shattered it with a crowbar while Natalie was in the shower. Loud enough to echo. Sharp enough to send her screaming from the bathroom, dripping wet, wrapped in a towel, her eyes wild. I pretended to rush from upstairs, pretending I hadn't timed it perfectly. She clung to me, trembling. "He's back. Oh my God, he's back." I inspected the glass. Called the police. The same officer returned. I feigned exasperation. Natalie spiraled in front of him, talking too fast, breathing too shallow. He looked at her the way professionals look at trauma victims, with distant pity. Over the next few days, I left more evidence for the cops to find. A half-burned cigarette on the windowsill outside our bedroom. Same brand Ethan used. A smeared footprint on the back porch in the rain. A torn scrap of paper in the yard with Natalie's name written over and over in jagged black ink. Each one carefully planted. Each one discovered just early enough for me to be the one to say, "Honey, I think you should come see this." Natalie stopped leaving the house. She refused to drive. Barely ate. Kept the blinds shut. She began watching the security cameras from her phone constantly, eyes flicking between feeds like a nervous animal. Even the sound of the mail slot made her jump. And I was always right there, holding her, soothing her, tightening the leash. Meanwhile, I went to the police with one more addition. Ethan had been sending Natalie threatening emails again. Of course, I wrote them myself, through a spoofed account that mirrored his old username. One read, "If I can't have you, no one can." Another said, "You'll regret choosing him." I made sure the timestamps matched moments she wasn't near her phone, so she couldn't disprove them even if she tried. The police took them seriously. And just like that, Ethan became a case file. A threat with a name. Natalie's world shrank to 2 safe zones, the bedroom and the couch. And even those didn't feel safe anymore. I caught her crying in her pillow one night, saying over and over, "This is all my fault." I lay beside her, playing the perfect husband. But in my head, I was already building the next move. Because soon, everyone would start asking questions. Her boss, her friends, The police. And when they did, I'd make sure every breadcrumb, every lie, every planted scrap of evidence pointed directly back to her. Not Ethan, because as much as I wanted Ethan broken, I wanted Natalie destroyed. It started with a headline, just a small article buried in the middle of a local news site, but it was enough. Local illustrator caught in harassment scandal tied to ongoing police investigation. It didn't name her directly, but the details were unmistakable. Her employer, her title, her involvement in the restraining order against Ethan, and the recent vandalism reported outside our home. The internet did the rest. Within hours, clients began pulling out. Emails rolled in, at first polite, then colder. Apologies, unpaid invoices, projects postponed indefinitely. Her inbox, once filled with requests and commissions, turned into a graveyard of closed doors. Her boss from the agency called 2 days later. I stood in the kitchen while she took it. Her voice cracked as she said, "Of course, I understand. I didn't mean for any of this to affect work. Yes, I'll take the leave. Thank you." She hung up, sat down, didn't say anything, just stared at the floor. By that weekend, the story spread. It didn't need facts. It had drama. A woman tangled up in a messy affair, a stalker ex-lover, police involvement, restraining orders, broken windows, vandalism, and now, rumors she'd been emotionally manipulating both men. It was everything a gossip thread could ask for. I watched the story spread from behind the scenes. Guided it, even. I dropped a few anonymous posts on art forums. Just enough innuendo to raise eyebrows. It's always the quiet ones. You think they're victims, but sometimes they're pulling the strings. I used to work with her. Never trusted how fast she climbed. Guess now we know why. That last one got traction. Shared. Commented on. Reposted with assumptions layered on top. Soon, her name became synonymous with scandal in the creative community. Even people who didn't know started to chime in. Cancel culture doesn't need evidence. Just a spark. I gave him fire. Natalie started staying in bed until noon. No makeup. No sketchpad. Just her laptop open to news alerts. Her face washed in a sick glow as she read what strangers were saying about her. She cried a lot, but not the loud, wailing kind. The silent kind. The kind where the face crumples slowly and tears spill without expression. The kind of cry you don't come back from. "I didn't do this," she whispered one night. "I know," I said, brushing her hair back. "You believe me, right?" I kissed her forehead. "Of course I do." She clutched me like I was the only solid thing left in her world. And that was the point. I was. Because everything else was being ripped from her hands. And Ethan? He was arrested again. He'd violated the restraining order. Showed up outside her old office building, ranting, telling people Natalie had destroyed him, that she used him, that he was the victim. Security detained him. Police booked him. And the internet exploded. A video of the incident leaked. Him shouting as they handcuffed him, claiming she'd ruined his life. I loved her. She made me this. It went viral. Natalie didn't sleep that night. She lay in bed, shaking, whispering, oh God," over and over like a mantra. But what destroyed her most wasn't Ethan. It was the idea that people believed she was responsible for everything. A coworker messaged her, "I'm sorry, but you really should have come forward earlier. This all feels off." An old client replied to her outreach, "I don't feel comfortable working with someone at the center of something like this." Even her sister, after spending the weekend at our house, sent a cold, quiet message days later. "I love you, but I think you need help. You've lied before. I can't defend this anymore." That one broke her. I found her in the bathroom the next day, on the floor, phone clutched in her hand, the screen smeared with tears. She looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. I never wanted this. I don't even know anymore." I sat beside her, held her close. "It's going to be okay," I whispered, but she didn't believe me. Not anymore, not even a little. And while she unraveled, I collected the pieces. Every call, every journal entry she typed in her laptop, every message she deleted but never knew I'd recovered. Her guilt, her panic, her fear. I saved it all, organized it, like a curator building the final exhibit of a ruined artist's life. Because soon, I would display it. and no one would ever look at her the same way again. There's a unique silence that settles into a house when two people are pretending everything is fine. It hums beneath the surface. You smile through it, eat meals through it, even make love through it. Soft, mechanical, empty, but you both know something is rotting beneath the floorboards. Natalie and I had been living in that silence for weeks. Only she didn't realize she was dining with the architect of her ruin. Not yet. After Ethan's second arrest, her world shrank to the living room. She stopped working, barely ate. Some days, she just sat on the couch, curled beneath a blanket, rereading news threads about herself and crying softly into her knees. I played the part perfectly, concerned, supportive, gentle, but I was growing tired of pretending. She'd been punished long enough. Now it was time she knew the truth. Not because I wanted redemption, because I wanted her to suffer from the clarity. It started with a laptop. One morning, while she was still asleep, I placed a new folder on her desktop. No title, no icon, just a plain, blank ghost of a folder. I left it there like bait. Then I waited. Later that afternoon, I watched from my office as she opened it. Inside were screenshots. Dozens. Emails she thought had vanished. Private journal entries she saved in Word documents. Phone transcripts. Conversations with friends, therapists, her sister. All of them recorded, dated, logged. There was even the sound file of a conversation she had with her sister just 2 weeks earlier. I think he still loves me. I don't know how. I've ruined everything. But he hasn't left. That has to mean something, right? The next file? A screen-recorded session of my own desktop with me logging into her email, her iCloud, her call logs. A mirror showing me, the man she thought she could still trust, rifling through the wreckage of her digital life. And then, the final file, a video from our security camera feed, but this time unedited. The moment I stepped outside late at night with a crowbar and shattered our own basement window. There was no Ethan, just me. She didn't scream, didn't cry. She just stood there, staring at the screen, hands trembling. I came down the stairs slowly, deliberately. She didn't turn around, just whispered, "It was you." Yes, all of it. I paused. Most of it. Her shoulders collapsed inward like her bones couldn't hold the weight of it. The messages, the photos, the cigarettes, the footage, the rumors online. I nodded. "Why?" she asked, voice hollow. I stepped closer. "Because you lied. Because you cheated. Because you shattered something I built with my entire soul." "That wasn't love," she whispered. "That's not what love looks like." "No," I said. "That's what revenge looks like." She spun on me, fury in her eyes for the first time in months. "You ruined me." "No," I said. "You ruined yourself. I just gave you a mirror." Her face twisted. "You're sick." I smiled. "Maybe, but you'll never be trusted again. Your clients, your friends, your family. They think you're the one who manipulated that poor man until he snapped. They think you dragged him down with you. You think they'll believe it was me now." She opened her mouth, closed it. She knew the answer. No one would believe her now. It was too late. She tried, of course. She contacted her sister first, sent the files, begged her to listen. Her sister replied 2 hours later. "I don't know what to think anymore. You've lied so much, Natalie. I need time." Then she called her best friend. It went straight to voicemail. She emailed her boss, attached the video of me breaking the window. The reply was terse. "This feels retaliatory. Please refrain from further contact until legal counsel is involved." And that was it. She sat on the kitchen floor that night. Didn't say a word. Didn't look at me. Just rocked slowly, back and forth, eyes red and glassy. The next morning, she was gone. Her side of the closet empty. The front door left slightly ajar. No note. No text. Just absence. I stood in the living room, sipping coffee, staring out the window. The house felt heavier without her. Quieter. But it wasn't peaceful. It was empty. I won. I got everything I wanted. She was destroyed. Ethan institutionalized. Every lie dragged into the light. But as I looked around at the home we once filled with art and laughter and arguments and sweat-soaked sex and lazy Sunday breakfasts, all I saw now was silence. All I heard was nothing. And for the first time since this all began, I wondered if revenge was ever enough. The house feels like a tomb now. Too still. Too clean. Every sound echoes like it doesn't belong. Like even the walls are uncomfortable with my presence. Natalie has been gone for 3 weeks. No word. No number left behind. No email. No social media activity. Just silence. Even the void she left is polite. Like she didn't want to inconvenience me with a dramatic goodbye. But it's worse this way, because every time I turn a corner, I expect to see her. And I don't. I still remember the sound her suitcase made as she dragged it across the floor. That low, plastic will grind against hardwood. I hadn't stirred when she left. Just lay there, half awake, pretending to sleep. She paused by the door. For a long time. Maybe she thought I'd say something. Maybe she hoped I would stop her. But I didn't. And when I heard that final click of the door closing behind her, I realized the game was over. I checked the mail less now. No point. The letters stopped coming. No more legal notices. No more panicked emails from Natalie's lawyer. No court dates. No threats. I think, deep down, she just wanted to vanish. To avoid the scorched field we'd created together. Ethan? Last I heard, he's still in a mental health facility. They say he's responding to treatment. That he's calmer now. But his name doesn't appear in any headlines anymore. No more angry online posts. No more whisper campaigns. He's gone back to silence, too. Maybe that's the only real ending any of us were meant to have. Some nights, I still walk into our bedroom and stop, halfway through taking off my shirt, because I see her in the mirror. Not her body, just the shape she left behind. A memory frozen in a moment. Natalie brushing her hair before bed. Natalie in that black camisole she wore when she wanted to feel seductive, but not obvious. Natalie whispering, "I'm sorry, not for the affair, but for breaking the version of me who once believed love was permanent." You know what the sickest part is? Some part of me misses her. Not the woman she became. Not the liar. Not the coward who let her obsession with the past destroy everything she'd built. No, I miss the girl I met in a coffee shop 5 years ago. She had a sketchbook in her lap, her headphones too loud, her latte barely touched. She smiled at me with ink on her fingers and laughed when I said I hated my job, but loved her art. She didn't cheat. She didn't lie. She was pure chaos and fire and potential. And I fucking miss her. But she's gone now. And the version of me that loved her, he's gone too. What's left is something quieter. Not peace. Not rage. Just a dull ache. A numb kind of freedom. I still keep the house immaculate. It's not about control anymore. It's about ritual. I wake up, make the bed, cook breakfast, read the news, pretend I'm normal. Pretend that all of this didn't start because I was too proud to let go, too hurt to heal, too human to forgive. I won't reach out to her. Not because I don't want to, because I wouldn't even know what to say. I ruined you because I loved you. I punished you because I needed to feel whole again. What kind of monster says that out loud? There's no big epiphany here. No redemption. Just the echo of everything I did in the name of justice, slowly fading into the walls. Some nights, I wake up and think I hear her voice, or see her silhouette in the kitchen, pouring coffee, humming that half-finished melody she used to sketch along with. But it's always just the wind and the emptiness she left behind. So was it worth it? I ask myself that a lot. And the truth? I don't know. I got what I wanted. She lost everything. So did Ethan. And now I live in a house where no one speaks. No one touches. No one lies. Because no one's left. Only me. And the silence I earned.